Have you ever noticed that your priorities start to shift as you get older? The things that once felt essential, like maintaining a large circle of friends, may not hold the same importance anymore. And here's the truth, you don't actually need friends after 70. That might sound surprising at first, but when you take a closer look, you'll see why embracing independence and focusing on your own well-being can be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. In this video, we're going to explore 6 reasons why friendships aren't as necessary in your later years as they once were. We'll uncover how your mindset, personal freedom, and even your health can improve when you stop worrying about maintaining friendships that no longer serve you. This isn't about loneliness, it's about living life on your own terms, free from the unnecessary expectations and obligations that can come with social ties. Stay tuned until the end, because you may find that letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships isn't just liberating. It might just change the way you see yourself and your later years for the better. Now let's get started. Number 1, you no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. One of the biggest reasons you don't need friends after 70 is that you've already lived through the phase of life where social validation mattered. Think back to your younger years. How often did friendships revolve around proving yourself, fitting in, or keeping up appearances? Whether it was impressing colleagues, maintaining social circles, or making sure you were included in gatherings, there was always an underlying pressure to be seen and accepted. But now, you're at a stage in life where none of that is necessary. You've already built your legacy, and the opinions of others don't hold the same weight they once did. At this age, you've seen enough to understand that true fulfillment doesn't come from external approval, it comes from within. There's no longer a need to chase friendships for status, reputation, or social standing. You are who you are, and you don't need anyone else's validation to confirm it. Many younger people spend their time worrying about how they're perceived, whether they're liked, admired, or respected. But by the time you've reached your later years, you realize that none of that defines your worth. You define your own value, and you don't need a group of people around you to reinforce it. Think about someone like Harold, a man in his early 70s, who spent most of his life climbing the corporate ladder. He was always surrounded by people, colleagues, acquaintances, so-called friends. But most of those relationships were built on convenience, rather than genuine connection. The moment he retired, those friendships faded. At first, he felt the need to reach out, to keep those ties alive. But then he had a realization. Why should he put effort into friendships that only existed because of work? Why chase relationships that were never truly meaningful to begin with? Instead of trying to hold on to friendships out of habit, Harold shifted his focus inward. He started spending more time on personal hobbies, rediscovered old interests, and, most importantly, he stopped caring about impressing others. He found that without the pressure of maintaining friendships, he actually felt freer. No more forced small talk, no more social obligations, no more worrying about whether people liked him or not. He was simply living for himself, and for the first time in a long time, that felt good. And that's the key. When you no longer seek validation from others, you start to realize how much energy was wasted on friendships that didn't add real value to your life. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. You don't need to keep up with anyone else's expectations. The only person you need to answer to is yourself. Number 2, peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you get older, something shifts. Peace starts to feel far more valuable than socializing. In your younger years, being around people might have felt like a necessity. The noise, the gatherings, the conversations, it all felt like part of a life well lived. But as time goes on, you start to appreciate something even more quiet. And not just any quiet, but the kind that allows you to truly be at ease, free from unnecessary drama, obligations, and social fatigue. Many friendships, even the good ones, come with a certain level of responsibility. There are phone calls to return, invitations to accept, and unspoken expectations to maintain contact. It's not that friendships are bad, it's just that, at a certain point, they can start to feel like more effort than they're worth. The truth is, you don't have to spend your time trying to keep up with others. You don't have to feel obligated to be available just because someone expects you to be. You've reached a stage in life where your time is your own and you get to decide how to spend it. Take Margaret, for example. She's 74 and used to have a large circle of friends. Lunches, group calls, holiday gatherings. Her calendar was always full. But as the years passed, she noticed that many of these social interactions felt draining rather than fulfilling. The conversation started feeling repetitive, the same stories being told over and over. Some friends only called to complain. Others seemed more interested in gossip than meaningful discussions. The joy of companionship had slowly turned into a routine she no longer enjoyed. One day, Margaret decided to step back. She stopped feeling guilty for saying no to invitations she wasn't excited about. She let go of the pressure to respond to every call or text immediately. Instead, she started embracing the quiet. She found that the time she once spent managing friendships was now hers to use however she pleased. She took longer walks, spent time in nature, read books she had been meaning to get to for years. Most importantly, she realized that solitude wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. And that's the beauty of this stage in life. You're no longer obligated to fill your days with constant activity or conversation. Just to feel connected, you get to enjoy your own company, without the need for constant validation from others. You get to choose peace over pressure, calm over chaos. So if you've ever felt guilty for pulling back from social obligations, remind yourself of this. You're not withdrawing from life. You're embracing a new kind of fulfillment. The kind that comes from within, the kind that doesn't rely on anyone else. And that kind of peace, it's something that only gets better with age. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now let's move forward. Number 3, fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone you call a friend is truly there for you. Over the years, you've likely experienced it. People who were once close, drifting away, friends who became distant when you needed them. Most were relationships that turned out to be one-sided. And by the time you reach 70, you start to understand that fewer friendships don't just mean fewer social obligations, they also mean fewer disappointments. Friendships, no matter how strong, come with expectations. There's the expectation to check in, to be available, to offer support. But what happens when those expectations aren't met? Disappointment. You call someone, but they don't call back. You make an effort, but they don't reciprocate. You find yourself giving more than you receive. And at this stage in life, do you really need that kind of stress? The answer is no. Take William, for example. At 78, he's seen friendships come and go. Some ended naturally, others faded. Because he realized he was always the one putting in the effort. There were people he had known for decades who suddenly became too busy, too distracted, or too uninterested to maintain a real connection. At first it stung. He wondered what he had done wrong, why certain people seemed to forget about him. But then he had a realization. He wasn't the one who had changed. He had simply stopped tolerating friendships that weren't mutual. That's the thing, when you let go of the idea that you need a large group of friends, you also let go of the disappointments that come with unmet expectations. You no longer have to feel frustrated when someone doesn't check in. You don't have to feel let down when a friendship fades. Instead, you get to focus on the most important person in your life, yourself. And this doesn't mean you have to isolate yourself. It simply means that you're choosing quality over quantity. Instead of maintaining a long list of acquaintances, you prioritize the relationships that truly matter, the ones that bring you joy and require no effort to sustain. Whether that's family, a lifelong friend, or even just a strong connection with yourself, those are the relationships that count. So if you've ever felt like friendships have brought more stress than joy, remind yourself that it's okay to step back. It's okay to choose simplicity over complexity, peace over frustration. You don't need a long list of friends to feel fulfilled. You just need to let go of the ones who were never truly there in the first place. Number 4, your time becomes more precious. As you get older, you start to realize that time is your most valuable resource. In your younger years, it may have felt like there was always more of it. More time to spend with friends, more time to invest in social circles, more time to worry about who was in your life and who wasn't. But by the time you reach 70, your perspective shifts. You begin to see that every hour, every day, every moment is precious. And when you understand the true value of your time, you naturally become more selective about how you spend it. Friendships, as fulfilling as they can be, also require time and effort. There are calls to make, visits to schedule, plans to keep. And while some connections are worth maintaining, many are simply habits we carry from the past, relationships we keep out of obligation rather than genuine enjoyment. At this stage in life, you have the right to ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my time? Does this friendship add to my happiness? Or does it feel like another thing on my to-do list? Think about Richard, a man in his early 80s who once had an active social life filled with dinner parties, group outings, and regular phone calls. But over time, he started to feel differently. The long conversations that once felt enjoyable now felt draining. The social gatherings that used to be exciting started to feel like obligations. One day, as he sat through yet another lunch filled with small talk and complaints, he realized something: he didn't want to spend his time this way anymore. So he made a change. He stopped saying yes out of habit and started saying no when he didn't feel like going out. Instead of spending hours catching up on gossip or listening to complaints, he dedicated his time to things that truly brought him joy: reading, walking, learning new things, and simply enjoying the peace of his own company. And the surprising part, he didn't feel lonely. In fact, he felt more fulfilled than ever before because he was spending his time in ways that mattered to him, not in ways that others expected. That's the key. When you let go of unnecessary friendships, you gain something far more valuable: time for yourself. Time to do the things you love. Time to enjoy life at your own pace. Time to focus on your own happiness instead of trying to meet the needs of others. So if you ever find yourself questioning whether you should keep up with certain friendships, ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? Because at this stage in life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to use it however you choose. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5, true companionship comes from within. One of the biggest misconceptions about getting older is that you need a large circle of friends to be happy. But the truth is, the most important companionship you can have is the one you build with yourself. When you reach 70, you've spent decades learning, growing, and evolving. You know yourself better than anyone else ever could. And with that self-awareness comes an incredible realization: you are enough. For most of our lives, we're taught to seek companionship outside of ourselves. We're told that being social is the key to happiness, that loneliness is something to be feared. But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Some of the happiest people in their later years are those who have embraced solitude, not as isolation, but as an opportunity for self-discovery, reflection, and peace. Take Eleanor, for example. She's 76 and used to believe that she needed to surround herself with people to feel fulfilled. She was always making plans, checking in on friends, filling her days with activity. But after a while, she started to notice something. Despite being socially active, she often felt drained rather than uplifted. She realized that many of her friendships were based on routine, not genuine connection. And worse, she found that she was constantly adjusting herself to fit into conversations, to keep up with social expectations, to avoid feeling left out. Then one day she stopped. She decided to spend time with herself the way she would with a dear friend, doing things she loved, listening to her own thoughts, enjoying her own company. She took long walks without feeling the need to call anyone. She went to cafes with a book instead of making small talk. She spent quiet evenings reflecting on her life, instead of worrying about maintaining friendships out of obligation. And to her surprise, she felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than she had in years. That's what many people don't realize. True companionship isn't about how many people you have around you. It's about how comfortable you are with yourself. When you stop relying on others for entertainment, validation, or conversation, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never experience. You no longer need external distractions to fill your time. You become your own source of joy, wisdom, and fulfillment. And the beauty of this? When you truly enjoy your own company, you attract relationships that are effortless. Instead of chasing friendships out of loneliness, you find that the right people naturally come into your life. People who respect your space, who understand your values, who bring peace instead of pressure. So if you've ever worried that letting go of friendships might leave you feeling alone, remember this: the best company you can ever have is already with you. And when you embrace that, you'll realize you were never truly alone in the first place. Number 6, letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most powerful things you can do after 70 is let go. Let go of the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer bring joy. Let go of the idea that your social circle defines your worth. Let go of the belief that being alone means being lonely. Because the moment you release these expectations, you open the door to a life that is simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. Many people hold on to friendships out of habit, even when those relationships no longer add value to their lives. They attend gatherings they don't enjoy, answer calls out of obligation, and keep up appearances just because it's what they've always done. But what if you didn't have to do any of that? What if you gave yourself permission to let go of friendships that felt like work and instead focused on the things that truly bring you happiness? Consider James, a man in his late 70s who once believed that staying socially active was the key to aging well. He made an effort to keep in touch with old friends, even when those friendships had become distant or superficial. He filled his days with social obligations, thinking that staying busy meant staying fulfilled. But one day he realized something. He wasn't enjoying it. The conversations felt repetitive. The gatherings felt like routines, and deep down he felt more exhausted than connected. So he made a choice. He stopped forcing friendships that no longer felt meaningful. Instead, he started prioritizing what truly mattered to him. He spent more time outdoors, focused on his health, learned new things, and embraced the freedom that came with not having to meet anyone's expectations. And in doing so, he discovered something incredible. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. That's the thing about letting go. It doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly fulfills you. It means recognizing that your happiness isn't tied to how many people you have around you, but rather how aligned you are with the life you actually want to live. And here's what happens when you embrace this mindset. You stop worrying about who's in your life and start focusing on what brings you joy. You begin to appreciate the little things, waking up to a quiet morning, enjoying a hobby without distraction, feeling at peace with your own thoughts. You realize that fulfillment doesn't come from maintaining friendships out of duty, but from living in a way that feels natural and meaningful to you. So if you've ever felt like you should be doing more to maintain friendships, ask yourself, is it truly adding to my happiness? Or am I holding on out of habit? Because once you give yourself permission to let go, you'll find that life becomes simpler, lighter, and more fulfilling in ways you never expected. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this video, take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. The idea that you don't need friends after 70 isn't about isolation, it's about freedom. It's about letting go of unnecessary obligations, choosing peace over pressure, and embracing the life you truly want to live. By now, you've seen how stepping away from friendships that no longer serve, you can actually bring more joy, more time, and more fulfillment than you ever expected. What stood out to you the most? Which of these reasons resonated with you the most? Maybe you've already started to let go of friendships that felt like more work than joy. Maybe you've noticed how much you enjoy your own company when you give yourself the chance. Or maybe this video gave you a new perspective on why it's okay to prioritize yourself. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.